everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you. It is good to see all of you beautiful people joining me on the Facebook Live. It is Thursday, and it is the day before, if you're one of those people. But it is the Thursday before the Championship Sunday. That's right, the Championship Sunday, because we're going to find out who is going to Super Bowl 54 this Sunday. AFC side, NFC side, the tables are set. Just about ready to sit down and dive in. I'm nervous. That's a good word for it. I'm nervous personally because it's when anxiety and excitement collide. You get nervous. Like I'm ready for it to be Sunday, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the fact that it's only Thursday night and then there's still Friday, Saturday, like, that's okay. I'm not worried about it. But nonetheless, it is coming. Championship Sunday is almost here. If you have a dog in the fight, I wish you the very best of luck. If you don't, then I invite you to enjoy to the best of your ability, really. I mean, that's what I've done the last several years is I pick a team that I think should win, and I root for them. And sometimes it's not always the case. But here we are, you know. So if your dog is in this fight, best of luck to you. And if not, then that's okay too. So we have a preview episode for you. I am joined, you'll hear a little later in the episode, by my good friend, Josh Foshee, of the North Idaho 49er Faithful chapter. They are a chapter that I have worked with a few times before we moved to South Dakota. Great folks there. They do a phenomenal job of getting together 49er fans in the area and really just making you feel welcome, all that good stuff. So props to them. I'm honored that I could be a part of it for even a short time that I was. So you'll hear from him as he gives his breakdown and analysis. He came with me to Seattle for the XFL Combine type event, their media day, and that was a lot of fun. So he's just been a great person to have to talk football, and he's the proud father of a brand new baby. That's right, there's one more being added to the 49er faithful in the Foshee household. So congratulations to him and his lovely wife on their newborn. With that, though, let's go ahead and get things rolling, dive right into today's headlines. And headlines, of course, are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, where they can customize your world, be it the world of business, the world of personal vendettas, the world of just leisure, pleasure, whatever you want, they can help personalize it. So, like I always talk about with Undisputed Belts, they have a belt for you for every occasion: office pool, sibling rivalry, fantasy football season, or even the best salesman of the month, year, or whatever. It's they can customize it to fit your needs. So Dynamite Enterprises can make belts. I still prefer Undisputed Belts. They've been with us since the beginning. But if you need literally anything else, they can do backdrops, tablecloths, runners, mic flags, shirts, polos, socks, probably shoes, underwear maybe, and then of course coasters, plaques, pens, business cards. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Don't just take my word for it. Go and visit dynamiteenterprises.com, see the full website of things that they've done or can do. And you can also go to their Facebook page, see testimonials of people such as myself that have reviewed them and think of the amazing work that they do. And you can follow them on Instagram also, and you can see all the things that they've done recently and over the course of since they established the account. So hit up Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, and he's going to get you taken care of. All right, so there are a few headlines. Larry Fitzgerald will return for the 2020 season. What a career he has had. I mean, it is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Just wow. He's going to play one more season. And then, the fact that Luke Kuechly has decided to retire after 8 seasons. This is a true testimony to the types of toll that the game of football can take on different people. It's just the fact of life. You look at Larry Fitzgerald, hasn't been injured a whole lot. Kuechly has not been injured a lot, but he has been injured significantly, and now he's going to call it a career. But one of the best to do it, him and Patrick Willis both called it a career during what I believe was their prime. Larry Fitzgerald, I don't know if you'd say he's past his prime because he can still do it, still one of the best to do it. But that's the world of football. That's the different perspectives. It's the fact that it's often overlooked by a lot of fans, casual or serious. And hopefully if you're a serious fan, you didn't overlook it. But it is the fact that you look at a guy like Larry Fitzgerald who's going to come back for another year. Of course, Antonio Gates called it a career after 16 seasons with the Chargers. And then Luke Kuechly can call it a career that same week after 8. It blows my mind. You guys are welcome to jump in the chat. I see that we already have some. Adam, I have no idea what you're talking about with the headline music. Anyway, Larry Fitzgerald is rice without the rings, says Matt. Yeah, 100%. I could not agree with you more on that. And it's sad because he came so close. I mean, that was one of the better Super Bowls I remember, the Cardinals and the Steelers. I really wanted Arizona to get it because Kurt Warner and Fitz, I thought, really deserved to get another one. But, it's not about what these guys deserve. It's about what ends up happening. I remember so vividly, speaking of Luke Kuechly, the Panthers were in that Super Bowl against the Broncos, and the story going into that was, is Peyton Manning going to get one more and ride off into the sunset as a champion? Is he going to be what Elway was, and he didn't have the best Super Bowl record. He was 1-2 at that point. Thankfully finished 500 for Super Bowls, so 2-4. But everybody was just like, yeah, Peyton needs to get one more and ride off into the sunset after an amazing 18-year career or however long he played. And I'm thinking, there's a lot of guys on the Panthers squad that might not ever get another chance to even be in a Super Bowl. I mean, what about them? Yeah, I get it. Von Miller is in that group of, never have I ever, and he got his ring. And so were a lot of the members of the Broncos because it was a very young team, just happened to have Peyton Manning as quarterback. But for the narrative to be that Manning needs to win so he can get one more and solidify his status as a legendary QB, possibly the greatest of all time, I think is just a pointless one. It really is. We all knew how great Peyton Manning was. There's no argument about Peyton Manning and his greatness. And yeah, another Super Bowl was great because his brothers got 2, both of those over Tom Brady. He was 2-0 in Super Bowls, so you can imagine the dinner table during Thanksgiving and Christmas, how those conversations may have gone. But I just think it's pettiness like that that's just not needed. Just like right now, as a 49ers fan, I'm going absolutely nuts at the fact that people continue to bring up that Aaron Rodgers wanted so badly to play for the 49ers. He is not the only quarterback that has ever wanted to play for the 49ers. Hell, not even the only football player that has ever wanted to play for the 49ers. And there were many before him, and there will be many after him. Tom Brady idolized Joe Montana growing up, and I don't hear the same drum being beaten every time the 49ers play the Patriots. It's just, I'm over it. It's been 15 years since the 2005 draft. Alex Smith was labeled a game manager. He went to 2 NFC championship games because the third one was Kaepernick, and then of course he was with the Chiefs then. And he had a great run with the Chiefs. So he had a great run once he finally got some consistency, but he had a Super Bowl appearance. Of course, that was Kaepernick that led them from midway through the season, all behind a great defense. But he had an okay career. I don't know if it's Hall of Fame worthy for Alex Smith. I don't know if he's going to come back. But, like, he had a decent career as a quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers went and got the ring, right? He went and he beat the Steelers, and he was the first quarterback since the great Brett Favre, who was a shadow he had to live in for so many seasons. And they got beat up by the Vikings for 2 years in a row until finally Rodgers was able to take it to Favre, and that was the hump he had to get over to get to the Super Bowl and then eventually win it. So it's like, I'm over it. I really am over the whole Aaron Rodgers and his heartbreaking because the 49ers didn't draft it. Look, I get it. It would have been a dream come true scenario, but how many times do you see that? It's more rare for things to not go according to plan than it is for things like fairy tales to play out in the world of sports. It's the plain truth to it. Pat says, Larry's great, but no Rice. I would debate that. Great for different reasons, though. Obviously, I think that when it comes to Larry Fitzgerald, he's done great at his position as a receiver and how they have used him. And Jerry Rice was great as just a pure receiver, a wide receiver, and probably one of the best football athletes of all time. Not just, great wide receiver. He was just a great athlete. Let's see. Matt says, sure, Brady needs another one to cement his legacy. Exactly. It's just a pointless rhetoric. Adam says, Rodgers always seems like he has to have something to be pissy about. Samoa Joe on WWE Network, there was what was it, 20 WWE 24 done on Samoa Joe, and it was a quote that I really needed to hear at that time because that was kind of how I was living my life. I got this job with Sioux Falls, and I feel like a lot has changed as far as I can't, not necessarily complain, but I can't feel the way I do about things that I did before I got hired, because it always felt like me against the world, and it was using spite as motivation. And Joe said, I quit using spite as motivation a long time ago because it wasn't motivation anymore. It became a crutch. And for Aaron Rodgers to have this giant chip on his shoulder for 15 years, even after winning a Super Bowl and being in the argument as the greatest to ever do it, like, you got to not use it as your motivation anymore, because I don't think you're really spiting anyone anymore at that point. Like, you have proved your points. So I completely agree with that, but, it is what it is. I'm fine with it. The media needs their storylines, so whatever. I'm just tired of hearing about it. I really am. I was tired of hearing about it when Alex Smith left to go play for the Chiefs. I was tired with it after Rodgers won his Super Bowl. I'm just overall tired of it. Anyway, Rocky Johnson passed away. In other news, a very, very sad day for the world of wrestling. For those of you that don't know, that is The Rock's father, who has passed away. Very sad times. He was 75, which is a decent run. All things considered, I think the athlete that he was, the wrestler that he was, he lived in a generation where those life expectancies are not supposed to be very long. Like, Ric Flair is the Keith Richards of the wrestling world. The man just keeps going like an Energizer bunny. How? I don't know. Now, granted, Ric Flair's vice, unlike Keith Richards, was women, not drugs, although I'm sure there's been plenty of the other for both of them, women and drugs. But he also has a thing for the bottle. But yet he continues to defy what we are taught to expect at his age and the way that he has treated his body. So Rocky Johnson, passing away at 75, I think is a pretty decent run for somebody that grew up in an era where there was a lot of stuff going on to try to keep your body in shape, be the best that you could be, physically perform, look great out in the ring. And I don't think he was in pain or miserable at all. But yeah, just a very sad moment for the world of wrestling. So rest in peace to Rocky Johnson. And also, there's a lot of wrestlers that have come and gone, some way too early. I thought Roddy Piper was gone way too soon, and he was one of the best to do it. You just never know. Let's see. Adam says one half of the former WWF Tag Team Champions with Tony Atlas. Very true. They both looked phenomenal, and I'm sure that there was that time there was probably steroids involved. You look at Tony Atlas, and yeah, there had to be some type of steroid use or some growth enhancement. But I don't think it's anything to be frowned upon now because the times were different then. I don't look at guys that lived life a certain way in the 70s, 80s, 90s through the microscope of 2019, 2020 because times were just different. It's funny. There's movies you think about, lines from them, and movies that would not work in 2020, 2019 that really worked back when they were released. It's crazy how times change. So hopefully The Rock is doing okay. I know that man was a huge influence on his life. In fact, he talks in great detail about the fact that he made his decision to pursue wrestling instead of football. And his dad said, if you're going to be in this, I need you to be all in this. And I think he was, man. The Rock, one of the best to do it. Rocky Johnson, his father, definitely showed him the way. So, happy retirement to Luke Kuechly. Happy one more season to Larry Fitzgerald. I think the world of football has been a great thing, and you never know what's going to happen next. Steve Sable of NFL Films will take his rightful place. I say again, his rightful place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The man who didn't create NFL Films, his father did, but he was definitely the Vincent Kennedy McMahon of NFL Films. I mean, we don't have the world of NFL today visually without Steve Sable. So congratulations to him. Long time overdue. Very long time overdue. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I've heard the argument for Drew Pearson once again getting snubbed by the Hall of Fame. I think he deserves to be in it. I'm not a Cowboys fan at all, but if a guy deserves to be in, he deserves to be in, plain and simple. Patrick Willis deserves to be in there. Same with Luke Kuechly. He'll deserve to be in there, but they're going to get knocked for their short time playing in the NFL. But Drew Pearson definitely deserves to be in there. Nonetheless, not to take anything away from the remaining class of 2020, the Centennial class. Congratulations to all of them. That was a very great honor for them. But yeah, Steve Sable, that was the name that came up that I was just like, good. Thank God he's finally in there because, yeah, NFL Films all the way. I appreciate all of you guys who have shared and liked and watched my CGS interviews that I've been doing. Just got a few more left to post, but they have been very well received. It is great to get to know these young athletes as they prepare for their path to the draft. So if you haven't subscribed to the Fan Show's YouTube channel yet, I strongly recommend that you do that. You can find the links to it on Twitter at Fan Show Official. There's several tweets with my interviewees that contain the link to the YouTube channel. And, of course, all the videos are in their entirety available on the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanshowofficial, which if you're watching, you're already there, so you already know where to go. But, yeah, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It'd be great to get more subscribers on there. Adam says, if Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame, there's a number of guys that should be in there. Very true. I will wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Very, very true. Trying to think of guys that aren't in that definitely will be or deserve to be in at this time. It's crazy to think that guys have to wait 5 years, like Brady, Breeze, Manning, that they'll have to wait before they can get on the ballot to go in. But at the same time, that's the very problem with WWE and its Hall of Fame is that they don't have a waiting period. I mean, Batista came back for his last match, last Mania, and now he's going in. It's like people are upset that it seems like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel for guys to go into the Hall of Fame. It's because there's no waiting period. They just throw in whoever they want to, and I think it's ridiculous. If they had a criteria and a waiting period, it would be much, better received. Much, much better. So the NFL, it does it very good. The NFL does the Hall of Fame very well, the process. Even if there's certain people that should be in it that are not. It's only one minor detail to pitch a fit about. Anyway, so congratulations to the 2020 Hall of Fame class for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And again, happy retirement to Luke Kuechly. So Championship Sunday. We're about to talk to Josh, or we're about to hear from Josh. I already talked to Josh. His breakdown of it. So on Sunday, we have the AFC Championship game. Tennessee versus Kansas City. Kickoff is 3:05 Eastern. And look, this game really could go a number of ways. Both games could, but I think this is the biggest surprise game because Tennessee is a 6th seed and they came out of nowhere. And then Kansas City had to erase a 24-point deficit against the Texans, who, the Texans I thought did really well in their playoff run up until it became just too far out of reach. NFC Championship game, Green Bay versus San Francisco. That is at 6:40 Eastern. AFC is luckily on CBS, and the NFC game, unfortunately, is on Fox, but it is what it is. So the Chiefs and the Titans, if the Titans continue to do what they've done and they shut down the biggest weapon that their opponent has, which last week it was Lamar Jackson, the week before it was Tom Brady, this week it's going to have to be Pat Mahomes, right, and Tyreek Hill. If they can take them out of the equation, however they do, whether it's sacking the quarterback or taking away his options downfield with their secondary, if they can do what they have done, they will win this game on the road. Tennessee has a working formula for postseason football where they are just the upset specialists right now. But this is their third game. It is their third one on the road. They have had no time off. KC had a big win at home. Their crowd is going to be fired up. Definitely will be a factor. So if KC, if they get a 2-score lead, 14 points at least, it's going to be out of reach. Maybe even 10 points. And it's going to be... Tennessee can't play catch-up. Maybe they can if they get a turnover or two, but Tennessee is not a team built to play catch-up. They're built to dictate the pace of the game, and if they control it, they will win. But I still think KC is probably going to come out on top of this. Kayla and Eddie, don't know which one of you is commenting, but I'm going to assume Eddie. Just tuned in, sorry I missed anything, but Drew Pearson not in the Hall of Fame. What? Hey, that's what I'm saying, man. Matt says, hell, Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's right. Our president of the United States of America is in the WWE Hall of Fame, which in all honesty, though, after a certain point in history shouldn't shock people because Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor of California and Jesse the Body Ventura was the governor of Minnesota. So Trump... I'm sorry. I was trying to make a point, and then I said the word Trump, and I'm like, I don't think I can support this argument. Arnold Schwarzenegger as president would have been, in my mind, more likely to happen before Trump is president. Let's just put it that way, okay? So, sorry. I was trying really hard to make a point there, and I just decided, nope, eject. Goose, eject. Speaking of which... Top Gun 2 looks really good. Really good. Bad Boys 3, not so much. Bad Boys 3, Martin Lawrence did not work out for the role, clearly. But I'm not trying to body shame anybody. I just thought it was funny. Will Smith, though, I wonder if he has to go to gangster school to learn slang all over again, because there's been a long stretch of time where he's been kind of a good old boy. and I wonder if he lost his like street cred edge. So it's interesting to see him in roles like Bad Boys. Matt says, didn't mean to start anything. Don't apologize, Matt. It's okay. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, back to the games. So on the NFC side of things, though, this game makes me nervous. I think you'd be foolish to think that the 49ers are going to blow out the Green Bay Packers. It's just simply not the case. This game, in my mind, will be close. It will be lower scoring. I'm not going to say it's going to be like 10-7, but I do think the lower to mid 20s is probably where these two teams will end up scoring. So about 40 to 50 points combined. If there is an over under at 50, I would take that under. I really would. I went on a podcast and talked about how I feel the game is going to go. And again, this is a game where you got to keep Rodgers off the field. If you're San Francisco, you have to create every opportunity to get a turnover or a 3-and-out, because if you can get yourself the ball and control the game the way that you have it planned, then you will win this game. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't think that there's necessarily, if they score 10 or 14 points, that it's out of reach for San Francisco, because that defense is one that can swing the momentum when you really need it. And I'm certainly hoping that it doesn't come down to them needing to swing momentum. But they also are a team that they can play catch up, but to an extent. Everybody has their breaking point. So I don't think that there's necessarily you don't want to see the Packers go up 24-0. You really don't. And that's something you don't want to see. And I don't think Tennessee going up 24-0. Obviously, Chiefs fans aren't going to sweat it, but this is a game that will be lower scoring in my mind, and it's going to be all about who can control the line of scrimmage and the clock. I don't think it's about, if they feed Kittle, if they get Kittle involved early and often, then the Niners are one. No, it's just, that's not how this game is going to go in my mind. So I believe I have said enough. There was a brand new episode of the Storm, the official Sioux Falls Storm podcast last night with their defensive backs coach, Andre Fields. Great conversation. The man can really speak. He's very well spoken. So go and check that out. Like I said, whether you're a Storm fan or not, it is available on Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud. The Fan Show is available on Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeart Radio. So make sure that you subscribe, that you like, that you download, that you share with your friends, so that we can get more and more of you lovely people listening, because I really do love hearing the feedback. You guys can go to iTunes and you can rate and review the show, and the more 5-star reviews and the more just reviews in general it gets, the higher it climbs up the charts. As far as when you open iTunes and you're not subscribed to it yet, it may suggest the Fan Show. So I appreciate you beautiful people that have done that and continue to share my content and like my content. Very excited about the upcoming season for the IFL, but we have the remainder of the NFL season to get through. Hopefully San Francisco's got one more week in them, or I guess one more game, since the Super Bowl is 2 weeks away from the championship game. But I'm just happy to be here. There's a lot of teams that did not make it this far. There's a lot of teams that did not even make it to the postseason. There's teams that didn't even have a winning season. So very thankful, very happy to be here. But yeah, I want one more. 2 more, really. Realistically, I want 2 more, but you got to win this one to get to that other one. So I just want a good game. Definitely don't want to be on the bad end of a blowout. But I really like this team. I've really enjoyed this season, and I'd like to see it capped off with a trip to the Super Bowl. So let's make it happen. So with that being said, without further ado or any more delay, I give you my good friend Josh Foshee of the North Idaho 49ers chapter. Enjoy my conversation with him, folks, and I'll see you guys after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fan Show. A good friend of mine. He is one of the men behind the madness that is the North Idaho 49er Faithful chapter that gets together every Sunday, sometimes Monday, Thursdays also, and maybe even a Saturday in there at House of Cards. He is Josh Foshee. How you doing, man?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. As good as you can be. Everybody asks me, how you doing right now? And I'm like, I'm at that sort of point where anxiousness, anxiety, and excitedness and excitement collide. That's where I'm at. The anticipation is killing me. It's like a weird version of Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Christmas definitely feels like it's coming more than once this year, the way that things are playing out. So hopefully they keep it rolling.
Yeah, and obviously, big matchup. Of course, I'm not one of those people that plays the I'd rather play game. I think when you looked at the landscape of the playoffs and then the NFC side, given how many teams had fought for a playoff spot on the NFC side, you knew that whatever teams you got were going to be pretty much deserving of being there, with the exception of, I think, whoever came out of the NFC East. But,
right.
That point aside, here you have the Minnesota Vikings, the Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, the Green Bay Packers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are all tough teams. Now, Minnesota was very hit and miss all season long. They had a chance to beat Green Bay on Monday night, Sunday night, and they couldn't do it. Like, they had every chance in the world to get it done. And the Packers on the other side, they had every chance to lose that game too. It went both ways. But that's what a division rivalry game is. Just like when Seattle plays San Francisco, you never know what you're going to get. You got one that went down to overtime as time expired, and then you had one that was an inch more, and you have a different outcome as time expired also. The Vikings upsetting the Saints, to me, was the biggest surprise of the postseason so far. So when that happened, it's like, okay, we get Minnesota now, even though everybody and their mom probably thought, if you're a Seattle fan, I was hearing a lot of, we'll see you in 2 weeks, because that's how that would have played out had New Orleans won and Seattle beat Philly. So you just never know what you're going to get in this postseason. In your mind, how is the postseason played out for you and how you feel going into Championship Sunday?
Well, the way that everything shook out, it's kind of crazy to think about, a team that's got 10, 11 wins being like the 5th or 6th seed. That's just in of itself shows the competition that's going on in the NFC. They seem to have just constantly berated the Niners for not playing anybody all year, so I'm kind of jaded by that aspect of it. But when you look at the other teams opposed to the Niners, it seems like there's certain games that they might have taken off. One that jumps to mind for the Packers was the Lions game. They struggled tremendously in that game. They still pulled it out, but they had a lot of issues going into that game. So if you look down the line of all these teams that made the playoffs, everybody's had this kind of lull. And I think the Niners had that when they played the Falcons, when they lost to the Falcons. So, all these teams have had that moment of, oh no, what are we doing? What did we do? And then they turned around and seemed to have stepped it up again. But the Packers seem to have had it more than most this year. So looking at the way the Packers have played, I'm not super high on them. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a huge, huge force to reckon with. I'm shocked the way that the way the team, you could see the team come together with the Vikings, the way that they realized their potential when they were in New Orleans. I think the Niners did the same thing. They realized their potential that they could play on a certain level, and they decided to step up their game. A lot of the way that these teams have played in the postseason has been a direct reflection of mental toughness and willingness to adapt. So it's been really cool to see all these guys strap it up and decide that this isn't the week that we're willing to go home. And it's made for great football on both sides. Oh yeah, both sides, AFC and NFC.
It has made for great football, and I think, the Vikings upsetting the Saints, I don't know if you call that huge. Just the weirdest luck ever, but that was huge, because then Vikings had to come to San Francisco, and we saw how that one played out. That was a game that you talk about how there's no such thing as a perfect game, and they were able to score 10 points, but the 49ers got it done in all three phases, and if there's not one but two muffed, punt returns, I don't know if anything like that changes, or Kendricks getting that interception. He was very close to having another. It just, you have to have luck go your way as long as it can, and make sure that you've done enough so that if it swings the other way, that it doesn't come back to bite you.
Right. Yep.
And that's what we've seen pretty much all season long. In fact, you mentioned the Atlanta game. I'd say that stretch of time was really a big question mark for San Francisco because they came off the high of beating New Orleans, and then they lose to the Falcons, but they had 3 losses. 2 of those 3 were within a month of each other. I mean, if anybody is going to hit the panic button on their own team, like that would have been the time to do it, and that wasn't the case. And I think the team and its perseverance through injuries, good times, bad times, close calls. I mean, when you are 4 of 5 of the best games of the year, and 2 of them you won, 2 of them you lost. I mean, that pretty much speaks to your season and the composure of this team.
Well, and then you look at the gauntlet that the Niners had to lay down before they got to the postseason, just to begin with. You got Green Bay, you got Baltimore, you got the Saints. Atlanta's very underrated, man. They went in and they beat up on the Saints themselves a couple weeks prior to playing the Niners. And they were hurt a lot for the first half of the season. That's a huge deal because we saw in November when the Niners got hurt how big of a deal it was for the Niners. They pulled it out. But it's a couple players away from making it a different decision on the end result. So the Falcons were a lot harder. The Seahawks are tough always. The Rams division, just like you said, are always difficult to play. So you look at that gauntlet of teams that are playing and you look at what they did in that time frame. They're battle tested. I think that's the biggest thing that I personally can see going into the playoffs. The Niners had playoffs from week 11 on. They had to play in atmospheres that were turned up because they'd only had 1 loss to that point, and they were working on being the best in the league, and everybody wanted to throw their best at them, and they did. And the Niners prevailed more than not. The Falcons game was tough to watch, just like the Seahawks probably had a hard time with the Niners winning week 17. Yeah. Because we lost by the exact same outcome, but on the other way where they actually scored. So, you just look at the things that they've gone through, the character that's been built, the things that have been talked about in the locker room, and the culture that they have. It's exciting to see. I feel like it's a better culture than they had in 2012, 2011 when they could have gone in 2011. Just like you said, there was issues with muff punts and stuff like that in 2011. I fervently believe the Niners would have been in the Super Bowl that year if it hadn't been for the small things other than the muff punts. But man, I mean, just looking at the character of the group, the people willing to do what they need to do to get things done to make it better for the team first, making everybody else a priority rather than themselves. They know they'll get there if they just put the team first and people other than themselves first. So it's really cool to watch a sports team go through that growth and the learning curve that they've gone through. It's exciting football.
Very exciting football. And one thing that I've seen that's been kind of the theme of this year's playoffs is that there are a lot of decisions made earlier in the games, like not first quarter, but we're talking second quarter, third quarter, that seem to have serious implications for how the remainder of the game plays out. Case in point was this last weekend, you saw the Texans get to a 24-0 lead, but it was 24 because they settled for a field goal for the first time all quarter. And now all of a sudden it's like it wasn't much, but it was enough to kind of swing momentum in favor of Kansas City, who went and rattled off 21 points in under 9 minutes. In Green Bay, you saw Seattle decide to not go for it on 4th, and I know it's 11, but dude, you're in a playoff game. Like you don't get another chance next week. And it was under 3 minutes. You're giving it back to Aaron Rodgers at home. It just seems like there's a lot of things that happen before the end of the game that have some serious implications for how the outcome is. And I know that was the case when San Francisco played Seattle week 17. The Seahawks decided to go for it on 4th and 1 instead of kick a field goal, and that became a huge thing. So I know it's cliche that battles are won in the trenches, but I really do think that the key to victory for San Francisco in this game is to control the ball and the clock and to play their style of football.
Yeah, and you gotta play to win. You can't play not to lose. I think that's one of the things that's been glaring in this postseason. You've got to play to win. You're out there for a certain amount of time in the postseason. You don't get a second chance. A lot of people just chalk it up to, in the regular season, this is how we would play, so this is the right play. I don't agree with that. I think that you have to put your cards out all on the table. If you got a trick play that you've been working on, that you've been just sitting on, run it, man. I mean, make good decisions, make a play happen when you need it to. I think that a lot of little things, like everybody points to one specific point in each game. And I feel like from watching these games, like even the Texans game per se, the Texans got away from what was getting them the points. Like they needed to keep doing what they had done previous to that. Granted, they got some good fortune with turnovers, which is totally fine. I'm good with that. But what got them down the field was Deshaun Watson and throwing the ball and running the play fake. They stopped doing that. They stopped giving him the play fake, stopped giving him the rollouts, and they started giving him a pocket passer type attitude. And then they were like, oh, well, we got to run the ball all of a sudden again because that's what we think we can do. And they stopped running the ball effectively. So they basically went back on what they had done that started them moving the ball down the field, and it cost them. You have someone who's Patrick Mahomes, who's definitely got a rifle for an arm, and he's mobile. People forget he's mobile. If he gets out of the pocket, breaks contain, you guys aren't going to stop him for 15 yards. So that's another wrinkle you got to account for with him. So you just got to play to win, and you got to move down the field the way that you know that you can do it and impose your will on them. And being in the trenches is a huge deal because when your team has men that can push the other men around, then on either side of the ball, then it's going to be a rough day for whoever's lining up across from you and the team that you're playing because as far as the front four on the Niners defensive line, I don't see anybody, and they're just getting healthy. They're getting better and better. I don't see anybody that's really stepped up to the task of slowing them down as much. They haven't gotten as many sacks in the second half of the season, but I can definitely see them getting healthy. And once D Ford came back this last week, it was a difference maker and it was a game changer. So
it really was.
Let's hope that the Packers are ready for that and hope that they give us a good game. Personally, I'd like to see a blowout, but that's just me. So.
I would, just because I'm really tired of seeing the Rodgers dream was to play for the 49ers. Like, dude, he's not the only quarterback to ever want to play for the 49ers, dude. Brady was a Montana fan. It's like, get over it.
And, you see that and you're like, okay, yeah, he's been in the league for, 14 years now? I mean, come on, man. Enough is enough. I mean, he can use that as motivation, but, you've gotten yours. We haven't gotten one since you've been in the league. Okay, that's great, man. Good for you. But the amount of time people spend on that, I think, is hilarious. It
really is.
It's a moot point at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right in the play to win, not to not lose. It's this weekend has got to be go for the throat. Whatever play you're calling on 3rd and 9 when it's 7-7 should be the same play you're calling when it's 3rd and 9 when you're up 21-7. It just do not get conservative on the game before the game that you're trying for. So I think that's going to be huge for these teams. Who do you see coming out of the AFC side of things?
Oh man, if the Titans can run the ball and control the clock and can get their over the top passes that they've had, I don't know how they've gotten so many over the top passes in the last couple of weeks because. Derrick Henry's running the ball like an animal. You're not going to stop him. Their O-line is big, bulky men that push people around and make them feel bad about themselves when they walk off the field after they just scored. The crazy thing is they're getting these passes over the top of these safeties that are dropping down in the box, and it's like, man, your first and foremost discipline is don't get beat deep.
Yep.
So I want to see that happen, but the Chiefs have played them this year, from what I can remember, and they lost in Tennessee to the Titans. And, if the Titans control the ball and nullify the explosive plays that Pat Mahomes has, then I think they can win. That being said, Tyreek Hill was not in that game that I can remember. And if he did, they nullified him, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't in that game. So you look at Tyreek Hill being back and the wide receiving core playing out of its mind. I mean, Sammy Watkins, where has he come from? He's been playing decent every other game, but this is postseason. He wants it. So if you can get those explosive plays that they're looking for, I personally, I'm leaning towards the Chiefs just because they do have that ability. I mean, you look at 24-0, and then they turn around and come back and beat them, handily. That's just that type of explosive play
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But if you see a run game and you see a drug out slugfest, heck of a fight in the trenches, that favors the Tennessee Titans. So it's going to be a good game, man. I'm pulling for the Titans, but I don't think they're going to pull that out. I think the Chiefs are going to do it.
All right, and we obviously know who you're going to take in the NFC Championship game, so I don't even need to get to that point. But I do want to, wish you guys a happy game day at House of Cards. I miss being there. You guys were always a lot of fun, so I hope you guys have a great time. Congratulations on the newborn baby, the newest member of 49er Faithful, man. So things are going well for you. I hope they keep going that way.
Yeah, buddy, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on. And just want to say we miss you guys, but we're glad that you're moving onward and upward, and it's really cool to see the journey you're on. So congratulations to you as well, my friend.
I appreciate that, man. Well, you take care of yourself. He is Josh, and he's the man that's part of the madness on Sunday at House of Cards. Him and Derek, they do a fantastic job. So if you're in the North Idaho area and you're a 49ers fan, even if you're not, just go and have a good time at House of Cards in Post Falls, Idaho. You take care, my friend.
All right, you two shout out Niner Empire. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Go Niners. And one more big thank you to Josh for being my guest here. It's always a real treat when I get to talk to my friends, especially ones that I've made over the years just purely by random chance. Josh, of course, Derek had reached out to me, his partner in crime for the North Idaho Faithful chapter events. And Spokane had one. I believe they do have one, but I had looked into it many seasons ago because Flamin' Joe's, where I watched a lot of games, was the official Raiders bar. It really was. And so I was like, there's got to be a place for 49er fans to get together. There's got to be a club. And I thought about starting one for a while because the one that they had, it just really wasn't run all that efficiently. There just wasn't a lot of involvement or participation. And so when I got hit up about this one and Brian Klum did the introduction, I was like, I don't know. But man, I was glad I went out to one of their games. It was a Sunday. It was a morning game. And crazy to think that now here we are just a season or two later, and they're good friends of mine. So I'm very glad that they were able to do what they do every Sunday and Monday and Thursday and maybe even a Saturday in there. They got a really well-ran organization as far as fan club chapters go, so props to them. And that will do it for this episode of The Fan Show. Don't forget, every Tuesday and Thursday we have all new episodes of Football and Nonsense. You can follow us on Twitter at FanShowOfficial. On Instagram is The Fan Show. And then on Facebook, give us a like, a share, and a listen or a view, whatever. And that is Facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you are subscribed and downloading every episode via iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, or iHeartRadio. So it's not Fan Show, it's not official unless it's Fan Show official, and we are officially out of here. So I want to thank all of you once again for joining me. Good luck to everyone this weekend, but of course, most importantly, go Niners. And remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.